Hi, everybody. Jorge Gamboa here with Century 21. With what is going on right now in Los Angeles and the amount of homes that have been affected by the fire, I wanted to do a little video because I just went through this process. I had a property that was burned down 4 years ago, and there were so many things that I wish I would have known at the time that I didn't know that might help you. If it doesn't, it's okay, but if it could apply to you or anybody you know, feel free to share this video. So for starters, talking about my experience, I had a property that was burned down 4 years ago. When that occurred, it took the insurance adjuster over a month to come out to the property. So my number one recommendation is call now. If you haven't already, submit that claim right away. With the amount of homes that have been affected, it is going to be a nightmare, and you want to get in there as soon as possible. One of the things that most insurance policies have is they have a certain period in which they cover the loss of mortgage or loss of rent. In the case of my building, it was only 12 months. And as you can imagine, 12 months wasn't very long. I was blessed that the property didn't have a mortgage, but most people do have mortgages. And if all they're going to give you is 12 months of lost mortgage, you need to get that started on that process right away. In addition, if you know your home was severely affected and you're going to have to rebuild, start the conversation, start looking to see who you are wanting to speak with, because another part of the process is you're going to have to submit plans to the city. And if the city of LA wasn't delayed enough with their regular process, this is going to delay even more. And again, this goes back to how long is it going to take you? Most people have mortgages. They have to pay these mortgages. Banks are not going to be, giving us time to finish our home before we have to pay the mortgage again. So consider that aspect. Are you going to talk to an architect? Who's going to help you with this? Because you want to get this stuff submitted as soon as possible. If you have to do a complete rebuild, well, that's an entirely other process. But that was the case that I went through. It took me over 2.5 years to get the plans approved from when they were finally complete. One of the things that I want to mention you need to consider is the WQMP. Look into that because it's a requirement depending on the total roof coverage that your property has. Unnecessary and complete waste of time in my opinion, but still consider that because that will make everything a little more expensive. In addition, if you do rebuild from the ground up, in the city of LA, they charge school fees. In the case of my property, the school fees that they charged me for were $40,000. You don't have a way around that. $40,000 is what I was charged. However, they give you 90 days to submit an exemption to get a refund. Only 90 days. So again, this is something if you're going to work with an architect or somebody that's going to help you, they're probably not going to do this. So pay attention to this aspect. 90 days from when your plans are approved and paid for, you have to submit the request for the refund. I did that last week, barely, before all this happened. And for me, it's going to take 4 months to hear back from them just to acknowledge that I'm next in line. So I can only imagine how long it's going to take now. The rule of thumb is fire is one of the reasons why you're eligible for a refund. Whatever the existing or the previously existing square footage of the property was, is what you generally qualify to get as a refund. So if you had a 2,000 square foot home that burned down and you end up applying for a 2,000 square foot new construction, you'll get all of it. If you decide, well, you know what, because of the circumstance and what the insurance, is going to give us, we're able to expand a little bit more, well, they'll deduct the 2,000 square feet from what you're building and they'll give you a refund. Regardless, it's a lot. So that's something that you don't want to ignore because 90 days will fly by. There were a lot of other things that I learned through the process. If you have any questions, reach out. I'll talk about what I learned, what I went through, where I'm at. I mean, I'm not even done. We just started the building process. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like for everybody else that has to start the process now. Lastly, if you were not affected by the fires, please look at your insurance policy. Many people bought homes 10, 20, 30 years ago, and you got enough coverage for when you bought the home. Maybe your insurance company has gone up 2-3% a year. One of the problems I had is the insurance that I had on my home was sufficient to cover for when I had a mortgage and when I bought the property 10 years ago. So I got the minimum insurance. Most people aren't trying to overinsure their property. So look into that, because in my case, yeah, I got money from the insurance company, but not enough to rebuild the entire structure that was there. With construction costs of 2021, what I ended up getting was less than a third of what I would have gotten if my insurance had been to what it should be. So consider that. Nobody wants to pay more, but in these tragic situations, many people will look back and say, the rebuild is going to be substantially more expensive than what I'm getting. And that's not a position you want to be in. One thing I forgot to mention is the final thing that I did not take advantage of, because it didn't occur to me, was to contact the assessor's office. That is the office that manages and handles your property taxes. They give you a very short window for you to contact them when there is a disaster like a fire. They enable you to submit a refund or a request for the portion that corresponds to the structure to be removed from your tax bill. They're not going to completely void your property taxes because, hey, the land has certain value. But in the case of what happened right now, something has to occur. It didn't occur to me to call the assessor's office for 2 years. When I did call, I was dealing with a lot. I had missed my window and there were no exemptions. So in the midst of everything that everybody's going to, that's another aspect you cannot ignore, because depending when you bought, the value of your property, that is money that you shouldn't be paying for, considering what you're going through now. So I'm sure other things will come up in my head. I just don't want to make this too long. I'm just a phone call away. Bye.